Hello everyone, welcome to my what if video. This is my first what if for Total Drama, and this what if Gwen and Trent were put on the same team for TDA. So we're gonna start in the second episode. Who would win the challenge? Um, because Duncan was like third place or whatever, he would probably win the challenge, along with either Gwen or Trent. And I'm gonna have to say Gwen would also win the challenge because Trent would probably give up his spot for Gwen. And it would still be the same. Bridget and Jeff will still be voted out, and nothing will change there. Then we have the teams. Duncan would now be on the Killer Grips, and Gwen would on the Screaming Gaffers. Since Chris said that ladies pick first, so Gwen would pick first, and obviously first pick Trent. Duncan would then have to pick, and I don't know. I think Duncan would actually go with Heather here, mainly because they had a slight bond there on TDI for a little bit there at the very end. And then LeShawna would pick, I mean, Gwen would pick LeShawna, and then Duncan would probably pick Owen or DJ. I'm gonna go with Owen because they bonded better. And then Gaffers, I think Gwen would still pick DJ. And then on the grips, I think Duncan would go with Lindsay and the Gaffers. It's a hard choice, but I think Gwen would go with Izzy. And then Duncan would probably go with Justin because he can't stand Harold. And then that would leave Harold to be in the Gaffers and then Beth to be on the grips. So as you can see, there are radically different teams. Gwen, Trent, LeShawna, DJ, Izzy, and Harold on the Gaffers, and Duncan, Heather, Owen, Lindsay, Justin, and Beth on the grips. This would mean Lindsay, Heather, and Beth are on the same team again. All right, so we're gonna move on. We're gonna see who gets voted out and who would win the challenge. Obviously, there wouldn't be any jealousy between Gwen and Trent and Duncan anymore, because then they wouldn't pick each other. Because Gwen wouldn't pick Duncan because she can't pick him because he is on the other team. So, uh, the the scenes here. Well, first of all, Owen would definitely win the grips the first challenge of bringing this stuff up, and DJ would also say no to doing it. But Izzy, knowing Izzy, she would probably try because she wants to be all crazy or whatever, and would fail. And then for the scenes, it would still be the same Izzy, but instead the gaffers would get the gangster one, and then the grips would get the old lady one. And now Izzy would obviously want to be the gangster, even though she wouldn't fit the role very well. So that so then the uh, Duncan would not be the grandma. It would be someone else. I think Heather would offer up Beth for being the ugliest of the females, so they would make Beth do it. And DJ would still make his alliance with Chef, causing Chef to throw the challenge for the Gaffers, causing the Gaffers to win the challenge. And for the elimination, I think Heather would be voted out there, mainly because Lindsay and Beth can't stand Heather. Owen probably wouldn't stand Heather. And then I think Justin would just go along with it. So Heather would be voted out on the third episode. On this episode would be different. Uh, Trent would still have his number 9 obsession, and Gwen would try to like talk him out of it or whatever, but like he wouldn't listen because first of all, it doesn't have anything to do with Gwen. And Duncan would not obviously tell Gwen that like, hey, he's probably obsessed with you. So That the the Grips would probably still win the Sandcastle contest thanks to Beth, and then the dancing battle. LeShawna would offer herself for the Gaffers, and I think Duncan would offer himself for the Grips because he thinks nobody else can do it. And I think Duncan would clearly beat LeShawna in this challenge because Duncan wouldn't be throwing the challenge for anybody. But this is only a reward, so it doesn't really even matter. For the oops, for the fifth episode, uh, um, I don't know what exactly would happen here. This is gonna radically change the season, because obviously Trent isn't like throwing challenges for Gwen since they're on the same team. So, who would win this challenge? Um, for the first challenge, Justin is obviously isn't jumping since he said he wasn't gonna jump. Uh, and then Izzy would very clearly do it, and for the sake of this, I think she would miss just for the like pure comedy, I guess. And for the roping challenge, Trent obviously wouldn't throw it, and I think Duncan could clearly outlast these guys. I think that Duncan would outlast all four of Owen, Beth, Lindsay, and Justin. I don't know if he could beat all of these, all like LeShawna, Gwen, Trent, DJ, Izzy, or Harold. But for the sake of this, let's just say he gets Harold, then he gets Izzy, then he would go for LeShawna. And I think it would be uh, Justin would already have gotten DJ, and I think Duncan would win it for the Grips. And that would send the Gaffers to tribal. I mean, sorry, Survivor Mind. Send the Gaffers to elimination. And this vote out, I have no idea. Justin obviously wouldn't have overheard Gwen or Trent or whatever, and Gwen and Trent would still be together. So LaShawna, Gwen, Trent, and Harold would vote together, and probably DJ as well, causing Izzy to go home this episode. In the first aftermath, nothing really happened with these guys. It would just be like um, Heather being furious about being voted out early, and then Izzy still the same probably that happened in the actual show. So this episode doesn't really matter. This episode, originally Trent was gone, but now he's still here. Gwen would not throw the challenge because they wouldn't have made a deal with the Grips. So, they would offer up the Gaffers would offer up Lindsay to go up because of her bad eating or whatever, and I think the the Gaffers would offer up Trent because if you remember from the bunch of disgustingness, he said he had a bad stomach, so they would obviously offer up Trent. So who would win here? It's hard to say. Uh, Trent would be very queasy, and so would Lindsay, but not as bad as Trent, I don't think, because DJ made the good food. So I think it would be safe to say that the Grips would win uh the Grips would win the shovel. And for the pushing challenge, I think that uh Justin would offer up Lindsay to push, and that would cause an argument between Duncan and Justin. And eventually, Justin would just make Lindsay do it. Actually, I don't know about that because they would want someone else to do it here. I think they would want DJ to do it for being for being strong and being able to push them, which would probably cause Duncan to want to do it. So DJ and Duncan will be pushing the grips. Uh, the grips have the shovel. They get there, they're using the shovel. The grips prob it would be harder for the gaffers because they can't dig up that quick. But the grips won in the original. Uh, oh, in this episode as well, Izzy would come back. Hard to tell which team because they found the gaffers in here. They would help the gaff. She would help the gaffers to the finish line, but she would join the grips, and the gaffers would win, and the grips would lose this challenge. F for the vote out, I don't think Izzy would be eligible since she just came back, and I don't even think she would vote here. Actually, wait, no, Izzy would join the winning team, so they don't have to go. So she would join back on the gaffers. And for the grips, Justin and Duncan would obviously be not like each other, and I think um, Duncan, Justin, it's hard to say, but I think Duncan would want to vote out Owen for being weak in the challenges, and I think that Justin and Duncan would set aside their differences to vote out Owen here. So Owen would be voted out this episode. And then this is a reward challenge, doesn't really have a bearing on the story at all. But it's whatever. LeShawna, the Gaffers would still win thanks to LeShawna, and then they would give LeShawna the reward. And for the this episode, uh, Duncan would obviously want to be the killer, but then Lindsay would stand up and have Beth be the killer, and then Chef would still make DJ be the killer. And Duncan would, for these challenges, it's harder to say, really, because I don't really know what would be going on. The first one would obviously be Justin and Harold, and we all know Harold beat Justin there. Then the bathroom one was still Lindsay and LeShawna, and Lindsay would obviously scream louder than LeShawna. Then the next one, which I believe was the kissing one, it would probably be Trent and Gwen and Lindsay and Duncan, probably. I'm not quite sure. And this would cause Trent and Gwen to obviously win. And then for like the tent challenge, Duncan would see that Harold had used his lucky soccer ball or whatever it was, his soccer ball to make the phantasm ball or whatever it was called, and then Duncan would be extremely mad at Harold, but he can't do anything about it since they're on different teams. And because the DJ flicked the ghost meter, uh, I actually also I think that Izzy would come up with like the fake blood because she's crazy, and even though Duncan's not there, I think she would still come up with it. And also Gwen would be really good at this challenge as well, and Trent would obviously follow up with Gwen. So they would do the fake blood thing. Duncan would obviously see it was fake, and then Lindsay would be really bossy this episode, and it would make everyone mad. And then the Grips would probably still lose because like DJ using his plan and then flicking the ghost meter to turn it on, which would freak everyone out. I think Duncan would be the least freaked out, but he'd still be a little bit freaked out. And then the Gaffers would win, and the Grips would lose. I think it would be a tie between like Lindsay and Justin, because Justin and Duncan are going to vote out Lindsay for being bossy in the challenge. Would Beth vote out Lindsay? I don't know, but it doesn't matter because DJ would still quit for his because he misses his mama, or like he wants to make things right with his mama. Anyways, for episode 10, this one is um an episode where like it's a reward challenge, so it doesn't really matter. Owen originally broke his jaw, but I think instead Trent would get hurt because it was shown in the first season Trent was always getting beaten up, and then Trent would get probably break his jaw and be out of the challenge. And this would cause the Harold, LeShawna, Gwen, and Izzy during the the flooding or whatever. But it would also give the Gaffers the win because injury, as Chris said in the original, injury trumps all or whatever, which causes them to win. And Duncan would be very annoyed by all three, Justin, Lindsay, and Beth. And he would be he would want to lead them, even though he feels it's useless because they all suck. Harold would still win for the Gaffers, but it's a reward, so it doesn't matter. This episode, Izzy is explosivo and is very crazy during the challenge. Duncan was seemed to really like this challenge and would win probably both challenges. Would the Grips would have to cover the 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 shed. Izzy would obviously be all crazy and want to go attack. Um, LeShawna would still be like all gassy or whatever, and but the Gaffers would probably lose thanks to Izzy, and the Grips win thanks to Duncan, and that would send Izzy home, obviously, for being crazy during the challenge. Second aftermath, it would be Owen, DJ, Izzy again. Izzy didn't really have a segment in the aftermath since he already did before. This would probably mostly be about DJ and his alliance with Chef. Owen might have a bearing on the story, but like not that much. Owen didn't really do anything in this version of the show. He wouldn't have broke his jaw. And then for this episode, Ocean's 8 or 9, who would be in the safes? It would probably still be LeShawna for the Gaffers. For the Grips, I have no idea. It could really be anyone. So we can do, I'll probably do like a wheel or something for it. Okay, we have the wheel, and let's shuffle it a little bit. Um, so right now it's gonna be Beth being the one. So Beth is captured for the Grips, and LaShawna is captured for the Gaffers. Uh, Gwen and Trent would probably be annoyed by Harold during the challenge because he's all like annoying and stuff. Heather obviously isn't there to fight with Harold. I don't think Gwen or Trent would fight with Harold. Duncan would probably suggest should they even save Beth, and then this would cause Lindsay to be mad at Duncan and be like, "We have to save Beth," but they wouldn't know the combination lock, and I don't know what Beth would be attracted to. Justin would probably peek poke a hole or whatever into that vent, or like try to open the vent, and this would cause Beth to get close and peek through, and then Justin would probably take off his shirt, causing Beth to go full strength and break the door open, causing the grips to get the bank robbing kit. And then for the gaffers, oh, I forgot to mention in this episode, they would have found out that LeShawna fake cried to get the reward. So Gwen, Trent, and Harold are not really on good terms with LeShawna, and since uh they can't know the combination, they would just go and use Harold's stuff like they did in the original. It would just be Gwen, Trent, and Harold, and they would get there before them. And then they would see that Courtney is there. Um, and since Courtney, they get first prize, Courtney is second prize, Courtney would still go to the grips, causing now Duncan and Courtney to be on the same team as well. This is dramatically different because Owen isn't here to like mess up the grips. So the grips, I think the grips would probably win. This will cause the gaffers to go. And I think Gwen and Trent are going to vote for LeShawna here because of the lies. And her not even being there at the LeShawna would be voted out because I think Harold also voted out too because he is not impressed by what she did. The teams are very uneven now, 5-3. So it's going to be harder to do this challenge. Um, so now that LaShawna's gone, there's not really like anything going on right now besides Gwen and Trent. And Gwen and Trent are obviously going to want to vote out Harold very soon because he's the only other option. And now Duncan and Courtney are going to be closer now because they are on the same team now. So for this challenge, it was originally Duncan that was doing fire, but it was also Lindsay. I think Harold would want to show off his mad skills or whatever to make fire, but and because Duncan used a lighter, Harold made fire before Duncan, and this would cause Courtney to be really mad at Duncan. So for the next challenge, I believe the next one was the like knocking people into the tar. It is very lopsided, so like a couple people would have to sit out of this challenge. I think it would be. I think Lindsay would not want to do it, and I don't think Beth would want to do it either. I don't think Lindsay or Justin would want to do it. For the matchups, it's kind of randomized. It was originally Lindsay and Harold and Lindsay. I think it will now be like Harold and Beth, and no, it was originally Lindsay and LaShawna, but now I think the matchups would be Harold and Beth, and then Gwen, Duncan, and Trent and Courtney. And I think because Gwen likes Duncan and thinks that he's a good person, or not a good person, like a cool person, I think Gwen would probably throw it and fall into the fall. And then Courtney, I think, would very clearly beat Trent. And we all remember what happened in this one. The original uh, Harold Harold and Justin both fell in. I think the same thing would happen here, and this would cause a tie, and this would mean that both the Grips members, Duncan and Courtney, would win for them. Anyways, moving on to the sports challenge. For this challenge, it's it's hard. Like um the original games were the four, so like one person would have to do two for this one, for this team. So I think the matchups would still be Harold and Lindsay for the first one. Harold would obviously win for that. And then I don't remember the order of it. Was it badminton and then the uh ball pit fighting wrestling thing? I don't remember. It wasn't really Duncan and Courtney against each other, but now I think it'll be Duncan and Trent because this would be Trent would probably still be jealous of Duncan. And for the badminton, it would be Gwen and Beth still. Well, Heather was there originally. And then for the oh, and for the Gaffers, um for the Gaffers of I think Duncan would probably beat Trent here, causing Gaffers to have one, Grips to have one, and Beth would still go beast mode against Gwen and beat Gwen. And then for the final, like a basketball, it would be Justin would still want to do it, and Harold would want to show off his mad skills and want to do it as well. So sorry if you hear my dog, he's barking. I don't know why. I think uh, Justin didn't really have a great um, shot or whatever. I think Harold would beat Justin. So it would be a tie, and we all remember what happened. It was really LeShawna like saying like this random cheer, but now she's not gonna say it because she's not here, and the Grips would still butter up Chris and would win. And here it's very clear that Gwen and Trent would vote out Harold because they're not going to vote out each other. Even though Trent is mad at Gwen for like sucking up to Duncan or whatever, they would still vote out Harold. For the dial M for the merge. Now everyone is together. They merge in this episode. And this is only a reward challenge. It doesn't really have anything to do with the story. But I think that Courtney and Lindsay would still win. Lindsay for like cutting the wires and Courtney for like beating everyone in the first one, but it doesn't really matter. Superhero ID, episode 17. All like the heroes that are still here. Lindsay would still be one to be Wonder Woman. Duncan would still be whatever the all-seeing eye. Beth would be Lumber Woman. Courtney would be the Human Cricket, and then Justin would be Timberman or whatever. Gwen would probably have something to do with like goth, so Gwen would be like Goth Girl or whatever. And Trent, it's hard to tell what Trent would be. Trent, uh, Trent would probably want something to do with Gwen. So Trent would probably be like another like they would be like a dynamic duo or whatever, goth guy and goth girl or whatever. And but they still wouldn't win. Lindsay would win that reward, and Courtney would still win immunity. And the vote out here, Courtney would probably want Gwen out because she's probably starting to get jealous of Gwen. And I think she would be able to convince Justin to vote out Gwen as well. Lindsay likes Gwen. Lindsay and Beth both like Gwen, so I don't think they would do it. But Courtney, it might be like a Harold situation where Courtney may be able to convince uh Trent to vote out Gwen. But I think Gwen, Lindsay, Beth, and Duncan are gonna vote someone else. They're probably gonna actually I don't because Duncan is like really like into Gwen. I mean into I'm sorry, into Courtney. Like I think he would like not realize what he's doing and probably vote out Gwen just because Courtney says so. So I think Gwen would go out in this episode. And Trent would feel really bad, but Gwen wouldn't blame him for it because of what she did. And this aftermath episode would probably be all about Gwen and like it would probably Jeff would probably want to start like drama or whatever by that thing if he likes Duncan, which he obviously doesn't. Like not like that because Gwen and Trent and Gwen are haven't broke up. And then for the Princess Pride, most of the stuff will still stay the same. Courtney will still be the princess. Everyone would still make fun of Lindsay's Bigfoot. Uh, Trent really would not want to be there at all because Gwen isn't there. Uh, this episode, um, Justin was trying to like make Duncan jealous, I guess. And then I think Duncan and Trent would probably work together in the challenge. And also, I mean, Justin and Trent, like Harold and Justin did in the original. Justin would obviously then betray, and this would cause Justin to almost win, but then they reveal it as a sword fight, and Courtney would be Justin. Um, I think pretty clearly Justin would still be voted out here. Uh, and there would still be a fake out with Duncan, with Chris saying Duncan was voted out. But I think it's obvious that it would still be Justin. This episode, what bearing would Trent have on the story? Well, he wouldn't be annoying like Harold and do the stupid little thing, the stupid whatever sound he does with the thing with the piano, and he also wouldn't do the murder thing. So, yes. Anyways, this doesn't really have a bearing on the story. Lindsay would still win the challenge and take Duncan um to the to the movies, causing Courtney to be jealous. And this episode, it was when they brought back Owen, and since there's not really a reason to not do that, so Owen would still be brought back this episode. Um, uh, there's not really a reason for him not to be. Only thing different about this is that Trent is here now. I think Trent would probably win the guitar challenge because he's Trent and he's great at the guitar. It'll be a tough match between Courtney, Duncan, and Trent. Even though Duncan did break his guitar, I think Trent would still win. And then Lindsay would then win the next challenge. Courtney would probably still win immunity though. Um, this episode, I think Duncan would want to vote out Trent now. Owen would probably still vote out Duncan. I mean, not Duncan, vote out Courtney. And these three would want to vote together, but since this is like an actual in-universe what if, Lindsay would probably still vote for herself, causing a tie between Duncan and Trent. Depending on whatever the tie challenge is, um, I don't know what the tie challenge could possibly be. Excuse me. Um, if it has something to do with about like rock and roll or whatever, uh, very clearly, Trent would win. But I don't know. For the sake of this, let's just say it's like another like guitar challenge. Trent would win, causing Duncan to go home that episode. This episode, it's quite a bit different because, well, first of all, Owen, it wasn't really specified if it was guys versus girls, but I don't think it was. Of course, for the teams, I think it would still be Beth and Courtney, and it would now be Trent and Lindsay. Owen would still be out because he's a mole, and he's still the mole. So, this episode doesn't really matter. I think Owen would still try to. I don't know what Owen would do to like cause like drama between Trent and Lindsay, but it would probably be something about like um how Trent like how Trent was always jealous of Duncan, and that Lindsay would say something about it because Owen mentioned something, and then Trent would get really mad at Lindsay, the two would fight. I think Trent would probably win the reward. Anyways, this episode, this is originally the episode where Harold found out that Owen was a mole, but I'm not sure if Trent would find out yet, or whoever Lindsay would find out either. Um, this is episode that Courtney and Beth made a girls' alliance, so they would obviously want Lindsay in it too. Courtney can't stand either of these two, but it would be the best for her. And originally Duncan got brought Scruffy, but Scruffy isn't here anymore. What would the items be for each of them? I think Lindsay's would something be like lip gloss or something, and then Trent would probably be like I think it would be like I think it would have something to do with like the number nine, like like the wheels, and I think he would bring back the train, something about like the train that his grandpa got him or whatever, and then Trent would feel really touched by that and would really try hard to win the challenge. Uh, this episode, during like the whole like spaceship thing, these three, Courtney, Beth and Lindsay would all be together and teaming up and stuff. I mean not Duncan, Trent would like was really like fighting hard in the challenge. Would probably like really want to win this challenge because he feels like he has to win now for Gwen, and he just wants to win the entire game now because of Gwen. So, I don't really remember exactly what happened during the spaceship thing. I just know that they had to like use Owen to plug up the hole in the wall or whatever. So I think that would still happen. And then comes, I know that Courtney won that challenge. I don't remember exactly what the challenge was exactly, but I know that she won. And now I don't know who. Courtney would obviously want to go last still. I think she would pick Owen, Trent, Beth, Lindsay, and then her last. Or I think she would probably pick Beth before Lindsay. Or Lindsay before Beth, I don't know. Owen wouldn't puke, but he would probably be close. Trent, I think he would, and then Beth would do the same thing that she did in the original. Lindsay wouldn't do it, and then Courtney would do it, causing Beth to win the challenge. Um, but while um Owen wants to cause more drama, so Owen would break Trent's train that he got as the luxury item, and he would try to blame it on Lindsay. And Trent would obviously be furious about it and want to vote out Lindsay now. until Lindsay just promises that she didn't, and it was probably Courtney. Also, because Courtney chose the order, they would break the girls' alliance, and then Lindsay and Beth would vote together. Uh, it's hard to say where everyone else will go. If Trent does believe Lindsay, which he probably doesn't, it wouldn't really matter anyways. So Trent would vote for Lindsay, Owen would vote for Lindsay, causing Courtney to be the swing vote between Lindsay and Trent. And I think she would vote out Lindsay. I mean, not Trent, it would be Courtney and Lindsay. So Courtney would obviously vote out Lindsay. In this episode, the animal buddies, Beth would probably still have the raccoon. Courtney would, for some reason, pick the shark. Owen probably pick the bear still, and which would leave Trent with the chameleon. Basically, the same things would happen, except I don't think Trent would um be as in on Also, originally Duncan was assigned a letter from Courtney or whatever, but now he's not there, and Trent obviously wouldn't be assigned with Courtney, so there's that plot line is out the window. Owen is still trying to sabotage because he wants the money to pay off the cheese seller. Um, Courtney would not win the challenge because of the shark. Shark won't do anything. Beth would probably would still win the first challenge, and she'd probably also win the immunity challenge. Because I don't think Trent would be Trent would probably lose the chameleon as well as Duncan did in the original. So Beth would still win, and it would cause Beth and Trent to vote out Courtney, and then Courtney to vote out Owen because they found out Owen's a traitor. Uh, because they found because Courtney looked on her PDA or whatever after Beth found it, and then they saw a video of Owen breaking the train that Trent got him. So actually, Trent would now vote for Owen probably, and Owen would now be voted out, even though Beth would still vote for Courtney, and Owen would probably vote for Courtney as well. So it would be a tie, causing both Courtney and Owen to go home, and it would be Beth and Trent in the final two. So for the challenge, it would probably be more similar to it would be very similar to the original. Like the questions and stuff, and I think that Trent would obviously have a huge edge on Beth, but they would also be very, very close. Trent would probably know more stuff about other people than Duncan did. Like if we go down, I don't think he would know the Bridget and Jeff thing. Uh, the third one, the second one for the ride on set episode, that one would probably be about Heather because she was voted out that one. Um, I don't know. But anyways, it would all still end with Beth and Trent at the end, really close together. Uh, and neither of them know anything about Courtney, so they would have to do the disaster challenge, causing them to be really close, and they would still tie. For the aftermath, they would still do the same challenges that they did until the inevitable vote comes up. And for the votes, I don't think Bridget and Jeff voted. Heather would probably vote for Trent. DJ would vote for Beth. Izzy would vote for herself. LeShawna would vote for Trent. Harold would vote for Beth. Uh, Harold would vote for Beth. Gwen's voting for Trent. Justin probably voted for Trent. I mean, vote for Beth. Duncan, Trent, Lindsay, Beth, uh, Courtney, Trent, Owen, Trent as well, probably. So Trent would win in a scenario, in like an original scenario. Trent would win. Uh, but in the alternate scenario, Beth would still win. So yeah, that is total drama action. But if Trent and Gwen were on the same team, it is dramatically different, and I would definitely like the season better if it was like this. So suggest more what if videos I can do as well in the future. So, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.